when the stage lights glow, the graceful figure standing with her guitar is more than a singer. She is the living conscience of American music. With her signature silver hair and a voice as fragile as cracked crystal, yet remarkably resilient, Emmylou Harris has transcended country music to create a universal language of grief and hope. Her journey is woven not just with notes, but with loss, rebirth, and a relentless artistic quest for truth. Born in 1947 in Alabama, Emmylou was the daughter of a disciplined military pilot. Her father's capture in war and his miraculous return months later sealed the concepts of heroism and loyalty in the young girl's mind forever. A brilliant student, a beauty queen, and a valedictorian, this young woman initially dreamed of becoming an actress on theater stages. However, the folk wines of the 1960s blew her heart in a completely different direction. The guitar she picked up during her university years under the influence of icons like Joan Baez and Bob Dylan became an escape for her. While singing in small cafes in Greensboro, she realized her deep musical passion was more dominant than theater. When she moved to New York's legendary Greenwich Village with little money but massive dreams, she would find both her music and her first husband, Tom Slocum, as her life began to accelerate fast. Her New York days were a formative period spent waitressing and performing in small clubs. Her debut album, Gliding Bird, released in 1970, unfortunately sank into silence when her record label went bankrupt. This failure, followed by a divorce, forced Emmylou to return to her parents' home with her baby. In those dark days when she considered quitting music, the biggest surprise fate had prepared for her was waiting right behind the door. Members of the Flying Burrito Brothers heard her captivating voice in a bar and told Gram Parsons. As a visionary, Parsons was seeking the right voice for his Cosmic American Music project. When he met Emmylou, he found more than a vocalist. He found a soulmate. The albums they recorded together were revolutionary works where country music merged with rock aesthetics, and the boundaries between different genres were finally torn down. However, this miraculous partnership was cut short by the tragic and sudden death of Gram Parsons in 1973. Emmylou was shattered by the deep pain of losing her closest friend and mentor. But this tragedy spurred her on rather than stopping her. She formed the Angel Band to keep Parsons' legacy alive and to carve her own path. She was now the lead of the story. With Boulder to Birmingham, she turned this loss into a haunting, timeless lament. The 1975 album Pieces of the Sky was a turning point in her solo career. Her collaboration with producer Brian Aherne brought both professional success and a new marriage. Her songs climbing the charts proved her ability to interpret old country classics with a modern sensibility. The Grammy Award for Elite Hotel announced to the world that she was now one of the undisputed queens of country music, possessing a voice that reached every heart. Resisting the pop-oriented pressures of the era, she never compromised the honesty in her music or her loyalty to her roots. Through albums like Luxury Liner, she made the purest forms of country music loved by wide audiences. Her voice matured over time and its emotional depth increased. However, by the early 80s, the changing face of the music industry and personal turmoil would once again put her through a very difficult challenge. Her divorce from Brian Aherne and commercially weakening albums increased rumors that she was burnt out. But she did not hesitate to take artistic risks with a concept project like The Ballad of Sally Rose. While this album wasn't a commercial explosion, it showed she was more than a performer. She was a talented songwriter. Soon after, her marriage to Paul Kennedy and the legendary Trio project brought a powerful new breath to her life. The Trio album, where she joined forces with Dolly Parton and Linda Ronstadt, is considered one of the most successful collaborations in history. The unique harmony created by these three giants sold millions and turned into a musical feast. For Emmylou, this success was both a source of morale and a beautiful example of female solidarity. However, in the early 90s, she left her label and her third marriage ended. It was time to be reborn. In 1995, teaming up with producer Daniel Lanois for Wrecking Ball created a shockwave in the music world. Breaking traditional country molds with atmospheric, dark, and modern tones, this album made Emmylou a pioneer of the alternative country genre. For an artist approaching her 50s to display such a bold transformation was proof of her fearless spirit. She proved that age was no barrier to innovation, and that evolution was truly vital. Wrecking Ball did more than win her another Grammy. It also brought a new generation of fans. She was now an icon who could not be imprisoned in genres. She performed duets with giants from Neil Young to Bob Dylan, adding her signature misty and wise voice to every project. Her music was no longer just a genre, it was a feeling. It was like a melodic summary of lived experiences, disappointments, and staying upright despite everything. Although she candidly described her personal failures as the greatest disappointment of her life, music was always the safest harbor for her to take refuge in. Her longing for her parents' half-century marriage resonated in the endless search for love in her songs. She showed that grace can be found even in loneliness and sorrow. While touching the hearts of millions with her music, she also healed her own deep wounds with her many notes. The slight rasp and haze her voice acquired in later years gave her songs even greater authority. Her partnerships with Mark Knopfler and her solo albums showed she lost nothing of her productivity. She also became an exemplary figure through her activism for animal rights and sensitivity to social issues. She was no longer just a country star. She had become a guardian and a bridge for the entire American cultural heritage for the future. Today, when one thinks of Emmylou Harris, what comes to mind is silver hair waving in the wind and that unique voice from beyond time. She does not just sing a song, she lives inside it and pulls the listener in with her. Her career, shuttling between country, folk, rock, and gospel, is a lesson in how an artist can constantly renew themselves while protecting their authenticity. Her story proves that falls are as precious as the climbs. Ultimately, Emmylou is not a star chasing notes, but a traveler into the depths of the soul. On this long road from a town in Alabama to world stages, she never sacrificed her sincerity or grace. The vast void she creates with her music fills up again with every listen and confronts the person with their own inner world. She continues to live as the purest melody of the American spirit, a silver-voiced legend whose light will never truly fade.